I want to thank Natalia Bourdon for inviting me and the Institute for Leadership and Management. Thank you. And all the conference organizers and presenters. It's a pleasure to be back here at the Ukrainian Catholic University. I haven't been here in 5 years. I visited 14 times between 2002 and 2008. As Natalia said, I'm a lawyer. I also have an MBA, Master's in Business Administration. I'm not Ukrainian, and I'm not Ukrainian Catholic, but when Professor Jeffrey Wills and Boris Gudziak, now Bishop Boris, asked me to incorporate the Ukrainian Catholic Education Foundation in the United States to raise money for UKU, I listened to their story about what they were trying to do, and I was privileged that they had asked me to do that for free, of course, and help them with that. And 5 years later, UKU went from being a distraction for my legal career to being the center of my life and my work. I was the president of the Ukrainian Catholic Education Foundation. President, the verb in English is preside. It wasn't me doing the work of this foundation. Those aren't my accomplishments. Those are the accomplishments of donors in the United States who give, and the people who work at UKU, who built these institutions. But as the president of the foundation, I helped to create a framework for success and provided some leadership and management. And I want to, management principles. I'll just comment briefly on this as an introduction. Communication is so important in leadership and in management. Communication is maybe the most important thing in that. And one test of how good a communicator you are is that you don't want to surprise people, especially people who work for you. If I'm going to have to terminate an employee for failing to do their job, I want to communicate along the way to the employee, hey, you need to do a better job in this area, or you need to do better on that, or you didn't do a good enough job on this, so that when it's time to terminate them, it's not a surprise. This is a special opportunity for me today to talk to you about how to be unsuccessful through unethical fundraising. And I'm going to talk about 5 ways to do that. There are 5 rules for being unsuccessful. And then I want to talk about 5 other matters relating to fundraising. So, and then we'll have some questions, I think, at the end. And I have, about 8 minutes to do that in, Natalia? Is that right? 9? Okay. 15, okay. So, 5 ways to be unsuccessful through unethical fundraising. First, do not be honest. Lie. Don't tell the truth. Tell half-truths. People may trust you at first if you do this and give you some money. But remember, they'll never give you money again, actually. If you give people money for something, they say they're going to spend it on doing something, and then you don't do it, they'll never give you money again. And let me take an example from the business world. In the United States, we have something that regulates the trading of stock, of securities, on the New York Stock Exchange and stuff like that. It's called the Securities and Exchange Commission. And they set the minimum rules for making investments in companies. Right? This is a government entity, the Securities and Exchange Commission. And this government entity in the United States requires you to be honest in producing a company's financial statements, in reporting how much a company made, earned, and spent. Okay? Now, this is a government entity that's requiring that. The government provides the minimal level, the minimal standard for honesty, I think. So, if even the government is requiring you to be transparent, to be honest, then of course to be successful in fundraising, you always need to be honest. And you should never lie. You can never lie. Especially about bad news. One of the hallmarks of a good manager is that when there's bad news, you report it immediately. You disclose it immediately, and you be honest about it and about the extent of it. And then it dissipates. It doesn't fester. And if you do that, people will respect you, and they will trust you. Because they'll say, John was honest with me when things were not going well. So I know that if things are not going to go well, if in the future, he'll be honest again about that. All right, the second rule for being unsuccessful. So I'm talking about being unsuccessful, and I'm switching to being successful. So being unsuccessful, Don't be transparent. Do you have this concept of transparency in Ukraine? Have you heard about it? Transparency. Okay, international. That's a organization, I guess, right? So it focuses on that, right? If you want to be unsuccessful in fundraising, don't be transparent. Don't provide reports about what you're doing. I'll go back to it now. Switching, I'll go back to from the business context in America, this government entity, the Securities and Exchange Commission. Even this government entity, when companies want to attract investors, this government entity says that you have to fully communicate all the risks of the investment, the risks, the dangers of the investment. You have to fully communicate that to people before they invest in you, okay? And they require this through lengthy disclosures, lengthy reports that you have to file. And there's a question at the very end of it. It's called the 10b-5 question, which references a part of the law. The question is there anything that you have not disclosed that you should disclose if someone would think it's important? Okay, and that's the ultimate test, I think, for when you're telling someone about your project, about being transparent, is are you telling them everything you think they need to know about your organization to make an informed decision about that? So, moving to how to be successful rather than unsuccessful, it's important to report to donors on how their money is spent. When I was president of the foundation, and even before and after, we produce an annual report that we send to donors that describes the ways in which the money is spent, and there's a financial report in there. And you know who's also doing more and more of this now is the Catholic Church in the United States. They never used to do this 50, 40, 30 years ago. But now you see dioceses, eparchies, producing public reports of how they spend money. Because donors are smart. If they believe in you, if they believe in your cause, they'll give you funds and support you. But if they lack faith, then obviously they won't support you. And a way to increase faith is to be transparent about your activities and your finances. Okay, the third way to be unsuccessful in fundraising through unethical fundraising, and this, you may think it's not a matter of ethics, but I think it is. Don't think long term. Think short term. Just think about today, or maybe the first part of tomorrow. Don't plan ahead. Like those half-built homes outside of Lviv and other cities. Maybe they didn't plan ahead. Maybe the constructors always intended to steal people's money. And we have our examples in America as well of half-built projects that are never finished. All right. The converse of that, the opposite of that, how to be successful through being ethical, is to think long term. And to have not only a plan for the next year, the next 2 years, not even the next 5 years, but the next 10, 20 years. When you go to get a loan from a bank in America for your business, all right, you have to produce not only a report about what you're going to do, but projected financial statements saying this is how much we expect to earn and from what sources and so forth, and these are the assumptions underlying it. And that's the most important document that the bank uses to decide whether to loan you money. It's a projection. So we want to think long term. And I say it's a matter of ethics for this reason. UKU makes these nice videos every year for the foundation in America that Petro Dudula actually makes, who's sitting right there. And I remember something that, where's Victoria? Victoria didn't say it, but Victoria, the last speaker quoted Miroslav Arnovich. I want to quote Olena Zhizhora. She said it in a video like 10 years ago. She said about students in UKU, she said, you have the obligation to be smart. You don't have the freedom to be stupid. And I really believe that. And you know what, if people in the business world believe that, we in the nonprofit world, it's even more important for us. We have to be smarter because we don't have a lot of the advantages that they have in the for-profit world. So that's why I say that thinking long term, you have to do it. It's not an option. Fourth way of being unsuccessful through unethical fundraising, don't focus on donors, just focus on yourself. Don't listen to donors, just give yourself credit. And And also, don't build relationships between the cause and your donors, just build relationships between the donors and yourself. Those are ways to be unethical in fundraising. Let's be opposite. How to be successful. It's all about donors. It's all about what the donors are interested in. And this is the ministry aspect of fundraising. I, as president of the foundation, I might want donors to give money to support UKU, or a particular part of UKU, like the Institute of Leadership and Management, or maybe for publishing a book, but it's not up to me. It's up to the donor. What do they want to support? Now, they may ask for my advice, and my advice is based on what is in the best interest of this institution as a whole, not on who my friends are at UKU, not on what my personal preferences are. And when I visit donors and talk to donors, I am trying to build a relationship, not between myself and the donors. That happens, yes, but really, I'm trying to make a connection between these donors in America and UKU, which is 5,000 miles away. Excuse me. And part of that is, I don't want donors to give me a gift personally. I can't accept that. I ask donors, it's the most important thing in fundraising in the U.S., is asking donors to leave part of their estate, leave a bequest for UKU, a gift when they die to UKU. They can't name me in their will. That would be unethical. I could not accept that kind of thing, because that's not for me. It's the relationship is between the donor and the cause, the organization that you're working for. So I say that listening to donors is the most important thing. I'll give you, there's one more unethical example I'll give you, but let me skip to something else. I'll give you the fifth one, and then I'll come back to a donor visit and how to listen to donors. The fifth example of how to be unethical and unsuccessful in fundraising: don't be efficient with or smart in running your organization. Do not be efficient or smart or running your organization. Waste money. Don't work hard. Tolerate people who don't work hard, etc. Obviously, you're going to be unsuccessful in that context. My advice is, and be very careful about this, my advice is to run your nonprofit organization like a business. Now, we have to be very careful about what that means, because I know that sometimes businesses are run very poorly, including in this part of the world, and including in America. When I say run it like a business, I mean focus on results. Focus on achieving results and have very little tolerance for failure. In Chicago, where I worked for the foundation that was raising money for UKU, if we had one bad employee, that would cost the foundation tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost opportunities. And it would demoralize the rest of the staff, because they say, hey, Ivan is not working hard, and he's getting paid, as much as I'm getting paid, or almost as much, so maybe I shouldn't work hard. See, it breeds very bad results. And the foundation in Chicago that raises money for UKU, it's all about UKU. It's serving UKU. And UKU trains hundreds or thousands of students now. And they are going to go out into the world and raise good families, or be priests and serve people and work for the church and serve tens of thousands of people. So I, as a manager, had a choice. Should I let Ivan be lazy and have a comfortable life in Chicago, and the cause would suffer, UKU would suffer by losing all of this money that they otherwise should have? Or should I take the smart and the courageous decision to fire Ivan and hire someone who's more interested in the mission and who can produce a better result? All right? I'm not advocating firing people indiscriminately and so forth, but what I'm saying is that everything is oriented around the mission, and you have to be very smart in running your organization. And again, one of the first things I said was communication is so important. I don't think there was anyone I ever fired who was surprised. They knew exactly where they stood all along the way. Now I want to talk very briefly about 5 additional short things on fundraising strategies. One is just to tell you my general plan for a donor visit. When I go and visit donors, and by the way, I worked for UKU before, I'm still a volunteer for UKU, and now I help 3 Catholic bishops in America I've helped them start fundraising offices and work for a group of sisters, the Sisters of St. Basil the Great. So I still visit donors all the time and stuff. And here's my general game plan for visiting donors. Number one, I introduce myself. My name is John Kuri. I'm the president of the Ukrainian Catholic Education Foundation, but I try to tailor the introduction to what the person is interested in or what they know. So I may say something like, I'm Boris Gudziak sent me, for example. That gets people's attention, and it's true. And Boris did ask me to go and see. Second, thank you. Thanking donors. Thank you for your past gifts to the university, and try to give them a sense of meaning, what they achieved. Your support helped, educate hundreds of students at the Ukrainian Catholic University last year, or maybe help pay for 10 students individually to be educated, whatever. Third, I would turn the attention to the donor and ask, why did you give? What interested you, or what prompted you to make your gift last December of $2,000? And I would listen very closely to what the donor says. That's the time that it's important to be quiet and listen. Fourth, I would update the donors on what's happening at UKU. And I would tailor that to what they're interested in. So if they're interested in educating seminarians, I would say we now have however many seminarians, 180 seminarians here that we're educating at UKU. 35 seminarians went to the English summer school. 20 seminarians went and did mission projects in East Ukraine last year, and so forth. So tailor to them. And then fifth, I would ask. I would make an ask. I would tailor to what they wanted. So I would say something to the effect of, would you consider making a gift to pay for 20 seminarians to go and conduct a mission in East Ukraine? Would you consider making a gift of $50,000 to pay for 10 students to be educated at the university this year? Whatever they were interested in, I would make the ask. And sixth, I would thank them, and that would be the end of the meeting. Additional comments on fundraising. There was an American multi-millionaire 100 years ago, a very famous man named John Rockefeller, and his advice for fundraising for nonprofits, do you know what it was? He said, go in with the attitude that you are offering the person, the prospective donor, a great investment. A great investment. And in America and in Ukraine also, there are many people who have funds and they want to do something meaningful with their money. They want to do something significant. And we can give them the opportunity to do that by supporting a quality institution like the Ukrainian Catholic University. A person who's selling a great product, they don't regard rejection as a failure. They regard rejection as a step closer to a positive response from someone else, because they know they have a great product to sell. This is a salesman. And if this person isn't interested, someone else will be interested in buying this product. And with the Ukrainian Catholic University, I knew that, and I know that we have a great cause that people want to support. And if one person is interested in it, that's okay. Someone else will be interested in it. We just need to be persistent and get the word out. What made us successful in fundraising at the foundation during the time that I was there? I think there were other people who were as smart as we were. There were other causes that could appeal to people as well. But I think we saw things before other people did, other fundraisers in America. Other Ukrainian organizations really did not ask for bequests before, and we asked for them all the time, because the generation of Ukrainian immigrants from Ukraine to America in the 1940s was dying off quickly, is still rapidly diminishing. So that focusing on bequests, focusing on annual fundraising dinners in different cities, that hadn't been done before. Focusing on advertising, spending money on hiring staff. These were new things that we took from the business world, from my past experience, and implemented successfully. But the other thing is that we worked harder than anybody. We worked as hard as any other Ukrainian organization in America, and almost as hard as any organization, period, in America. And I remember working 100-hour weeks, 100 hours a week, not every week, but especially in the first couple of years. Natalia asked me to mention briefly the subject of accepting dirty money, so to speak. And I want to come back to, there was some mention during Victoria's talk about conspiracy theories. I don't want to talk about conspiracy theories, but what I want to say is that sometimes I hear the comment that anyone in Ukraine who has money got it through a dirty way. Okay? And sometimes I hear that in America too. Anyone who made a lot of money in America must have broken the law or done things that were unethical. And I don't believe that, either in Ukraine or in America. I think a statement like that is blind. It's a reflective resentment. Yes, there are people who made their money through unethical ways in America and in Ukraine. But there are also, I am certain, people who made their money in ethical ways by identifying a demand from the market, by identifying what people would be interested in and then responding to that. Someone who opens a coffee shop in downtown Lviv, the first coffee shop or whatever. Ukrainians love coffee, right? I think it was invented in this country. So that person was very successful. Now, because they're successful doesn't mean they're unethical? No. And I'm not speaking about, I don't know who opened the coffee shop or whatever. I'm not talking about specifics. But what I'm saying is that a reflexive resentment against success is very unhealthy. It's unhealthy for society as a whole, and it's unhealthy for the individual believer of that. And here's one negative effect of this bad attitude or bad mindset that everyone is a thief or every politician is a bad person. The result is that you look at the world as everyone being the same. And you look at, for example, in political races, every politician is the same. If they're all bad, then why go vote, right? And I think that's completely wrong. I think that's wrong in America. I think it's wrong in Ukraine. I think it's wrong in any country. That produces even worse results. In terms of accepting money from certain people, I think the question to ask is, what does accepting that donation do to you and to your organization? What price do you have to pay? Are there strings attached to it? That is, are there conditions attached to it or not? Can you be true to your mission to the fullest extent possible by accepting this gift? Can you be true to your commitment to your donors, people who have given in the past, if you accept this donation? The Jesuits have one of their discernment methods in terms of making any decision or considering anything is ask yourself, does this bring me closer in my relationship to God, or does it distance me from God? So in the context of fundraising, the questions that I ask you to ask yourself about accepting dirty money, again, are what does this do to you? Can you live out your mission to the fullest extent possible by accepting a donation from this person? And let me give you my own bias in terms of responding to these answers. I have a very busy life working for 3 bishops and a group of sisters, volunteering for UKU and other organizations. And I can't accept any gifts with strings, any high maintenance gifts. And any donations that cause deep questions and reflections, it's very difficult to deal with because I don't have time, and the organizations that I work for don't have time. My own opinion is that UKU has stayed true to its mission in accepting all the donations that we've received in America and in Ukraine. And I commend Father Boris, Bishop Boris now on that. Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft, was asked 10 years ago, what makes Microsoft such a great company? And he said this, there are 30 outstanding people at this company. 30 people. He said that's what's made one of the world's largest companies stand apart from any company. And I said this in fundraising dinners across America for several years. I think UKU's got that same cadre of people, the 30 people, the core that can carry on. So I'd like to thank you for your time and your attention. I hope you could understand me. I hope I wasn't too long. And thank again Natalia, the Institute, and UKU, and these finest people, these 30 people from UKU who have touched me and many, many people in America. And so many people told Bishop Boris when he would come and ask for funds, they would not only give the funds, they would give it happily, and they would say, Father Boris, it is a privilege to support you and to support the university. And if you can make your donors feel that way, then you're doing the right thing, and obviously you're being ethical in your fundraising. Дякую.